I'm Rafa, Dragon Overlord of the Dark World. Well, that is who I am now. And I recently challenged a bunch of others to a small tournament. See who is the best discarding deck. That means so. I want to know what my own citizens of the Dark World can do. So, I'm going to gather my troops, which includes 2 normal monsters, 17 effect monsters, 9 spells, 1 trap, and of course, a fusion monster. Now I'm gonna go over them. Our normal monsters are irrelevant. No card, not deck. Mentions normal monsters. One of them is technically a 2100 beater. Defender, I mean. The other one's a 1900 beater. Powerful, sure, but not good. Now, here's when we're going to get to a common theme between our cards. Most of our monsters have an effects when discarded. Then they do something. Sometimes even an effect when their opponent discards the card. This one makes it so we summon to our opponent's field. And after being summoned, by any means, by the effect of a Dark World's card, our opponent discards 1 card. If we give this to our opponent, it means our opponent's monster is making us discard a card. Next, we have a monster that is discarded, gets out of the Dark World, or graveyard, simply copy itself, and either special summon them to either field. Then, if this card was discarded from our hand by our opponent's card effect, I can special summon either field one of my fiend monsters that is banished, or my hand, or graveyard. You have the ability by discarding 1 card to bring out 2. Our next monster, if it's discarded by, I should clarify, it has to be by card effect. All of them have to be by card effect. And they're mandatory. This one destroys a spell trap card on the field. Mandatory, don't forget. It does target, but does not say your opponent. So if you have a spell trap, it's gone. Unlike our next monster. It targets a monster and destroys it. If you're the only one with a monster, it's gone. Scout. Well, if it's destroyed by battle, instead of the graveyard, we could add a level 4 lower Dark World monster from our deck to our hand. Wait, we don't get to discard it? Unlike Brow. Huntsman of the Dark World. If it's discarded by card effect, we draw a card. And if the opponent is the one discarding it, we draw 2 instead. So if our opponent activated this card and made us discard something, we get to draw 2 cards for the price of 1. Leganta. Which lets us, well, it can only be special summon once per turn. You can discard a card itself and add a gateway into Dark World deck to your hand. If this card is banished, you special summon it. It's a nice way. Its first line of text is a nice way not to put hard once per turns on any of our Dark World cards, which is something our monsters don't really have. In fact, if we found a way to recycle this card 100 times, we could. To have Rage, Vanguard of Dark World. Being discarded summons itself to the field. The Snow on Light of Dark World is being discarded. We add any of our Dark World cards from our deck to our hand. Does not matter if it's spell, trap, or monster. We also, if it's discarded by our opponent's card, I can target one of my opponent's monsters in their graveyard, and special to my field in defense position, so I cannot summon back link monsters. And it was good in the anime, not in the real world. This card makes it inflicts damage. You have to discard a card. Gold Lord of Dark World. All of our monsters, by the way, forgot to mention, are Dark Fiends. Yes, even me, a dragon, I'm a Dark Fiend. This card, discarded, we get to summon itself, and if it's discarded by opponent's card, we can target 2 cards our opponent controls and and destroy them. Silva. Discard it, special summons itself back. And if it's discarded by our opponent's cards, we get to place exactly 2 of our opponent's cards in the hand on the bottom of their deck. It is going to go to the graveyard, so it's perfect. We're going to get rid of all of our opponent's cards. No, actually, it has to be exactly 2. So, if our opponent, let's say, had 2 cards in their hand, perfect. Unless they somehow got a card in their hand. Or you can't use this card 3 times. Unlike this monster. And if it's discarded, special summon it, toggle on our opponent, and it gains 500 attack. If discarded by our opponent's card. Next monster, discarded, becomes itself. Then if it's discarded by our opponent, we're going to summon a fiend from our deck to either field. Next, got Rainbow. Overlord of Darkwild. If it's discarded, we can summon it. If summoned, we destroy all monsters or all spells our opponent controls. Now, my smaller self, Grapho Dragon Lord of the Darkwild. Technically it's not of the Darkworld, it's just of Darkworld. I can return a monster, Darkworld monster on my field to my hand. And I have an effective, I discard it, I target a card in the field, destroy it. If I'm discarded by the graveyard by my opponent's card, I can look at a random card in my opponent's hand. And if it's a monster special summon to my field. Our next card, final card, the monsters, is Rainbow, over King of the Darkwild. It can return a monster to summon itself. If it's in the graveyard, we can add a level 7 or higher, or lower Darkworld. So we can't add these 2, we can add anything else. Plus, if it's discarded by opponent's card, we can add any level 5 or higher Darkworld monster from our deck or our hand, except copies of itself. Now, our spell cards, Darkworld Dealing. Both of us discard and both of us draw. We draw first. If we have Brow, we turn that a card that, here, let me do it this way. This is our hand right now. We activate 1 card, and this is no longer in play. And we discard this one, and draw 1. We just went negative 1 card advantage. But with Brow, we go neutral card advantage. Alright. We also got Charge into the Darkwild, which brings out a level 4 lower Fiend. It's a monster reborn for Fiend monsters, and it's hard once per turn. Next, Darkworld Lightning. You can target a set card in the field, destroy it, then discard 1 card. Darkworld Puppetry. Targets up to 3 cards in any graveyard, banish them, then discard a Fiend monster. During the main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you could banish this card, then target 1 of your banished Fiend monsters add to your hand. Let's just get back into our resources and get rid of our opponent's resources. Accession. It is during the main phase, quick effect, fusion summon. And its other effect lets us, during our main phase, add it back to our hand by discarding a Darkworld monster. Gateway to Darkworld. We target Darkworld in the graveyard, special summon that target. You can't summon monsters for the rest of the turn. Now, Darkworld Grimrar, continue a spell. Makes it so, in the end phase, we should normally be above our hand limit, instead of us discarding for game mechanics. So we discard for game mechanics, not for effect. And target a monster. Bring back one of those monsters. Darkworld Archive. It makes it so in the main phase we can discard a Darkworld. Make it so all Darkworlds gain attack. 100. multiply by its level until the end of the turn. If we don't control a dark world, there's nothing to gain, so we won't be able to discard anything. If we discard a card, we get its other effect, by the way. If we discard, except even running damage tip, if we discard a dark world card, by card effect, we get to draw a card. Then discard a card, then draw 2. Gate gives all of our fiend monsters 300, meaning I become a 3,500 attack point monster. We can banish a fiend from our graveyard. Once per turn, banish a fiend from our graveyard to discard a card and draw 1. Go card neutral, and that card we discard is going to have an effect. And if that card would be banished, just so happen to be our Gata, it comes back. So many resources. Now, let's make that card. When our opponent activates a monster effect, well, if we have 3 or more cards, our hand, drag the dark world monster on the field, turn that to the hand, and if we do, it's a continuous tap card, by the way. The effect becomes your opponent discards 1 card. Return a card and discard a card to negate our opponent's effect. Effectively is what it does. And this discards by our opponent's card. It's a random card we're discarding, and if we have 5 monsters, we get effectively 5 Omni negates. Good for Dragon for the Lord of Dark World. You do a very similar effect as we just talked about. If our opponent activates a monster, normal trap, or normal spell, while I have cards in hand, I can replace the effect with I discard a card. Which means my opponent just discard 1 of my cards. If I'm sent to the graveyard as being fusion summoned, is under control. Field, I can special summon a Twin Graphic Dragon Lord of Dark World that is banished from the graveyard. And each player has a hand discards 1 card. That's everything we can do. Now, I recommend you stick around eventually when I defeat my foe. But, of course, I plan on getting to the finals with Tia. I've already supported them. Like how you should support me by drawing the subscribe button.